Right, I'm just going to show you how to cut the wax off. It's not complicated. It does vary from honey to honey. So I've got my nice long, reasonably sharp but not razor sharp knife. I'm going to put it in like this, and I'm not dragging it down that way. I'm cutting it on a slight angle. I want to cut it rather than drag it. What will cause you problems is if you have some that's got any pollen in it, because you can't cut through the pollen. Then you'll have some sort of receptacle under whatever you're uncapping in. You can actually see there is pollen in this frame. While I've got the frame, I will also cut any brace comb off the bottom so that it's tidy for next season. Then we turn it over. Again, I'll cut any brace comb that might be on there. There's none really on there. And then, now then, you don't want to take off more than you need, but you will take a certain amount of additional. You can't literally just get the top off. Sometimes you can. Some honeys it's easier than others. So we're sliding that off. We're trying to get it in the hole, which doesn't quite work. And then we're checking down this side because I think there's a few that I haven't. So that one's a nice simple one, and that can now go into the extractor. Okay, so here's a second frame. Again, I've got a nice bit of propolis on the top there. So we're going to start here. Going to gradually drag it down. Just a little bit set in that corner. So yeah, it's going to work quite well. When there's not a fat one, I'm basically resting it on the wood top and bottom as a guide. Now, as you can see, I've got a patch here. Now we could go like that, but if it's not too far in, we can bow the nice bendy knife, and there we are. That's gone in and sorted that bit out. And then I've turned it over. Let's see. This is a sticky out bit. Slightly set, I can feel it. Oh, I think this side. Oops, now you see I'm dragging it a bit much. Happens sometimes. If we change back to carefully sawing, we won't take off too much of the actual frame, the honeycomb. And it's worth keeping this because we give it back to the bees, and it makes a lot less work for them next year. You know, they're much happier to be given drawn foundation than they are to just be given the blank stuff. They can just get on storing honey. So having extracted the honey that I've just shown you that I was uncapping, you can see where some of it is set. Won't spin out no matter how fast you spin it. I rarely put my spinner above 7, 8's quite nice, but 7 you don't lose too many frames. As you can see, that isn't going to go anywhere. And then there's another one which is even more solidly in the frames, around the corners. So the middle has spun out very nicely. 2 different nectars being stored and made into honey in here. So you had one around the outside and one across the middle. You find bees do that. They keep them separate all the time. You will often find in the brood, they'll have brood, then nectar, then pollen. They like arcs. So what can we do with this? Well, you can, if you want, cut it out. If there's a lot of it, it's probably worth doing it. Heat it gently, see what sort of temperature you need to get it up to in order for it to melt. It might melt at about the brood temperature, so 36 degrees, which wouldn't hurt the honey at all, but I'd be quite surprised if this melted that quickly. So you can take it up a bit higher, melt it out, and use it as cooking honey. If you're going to cook with it, it hardly matters if you've made it a bit warm, does it? Or you can feed it back to the bees if it's early enough in the season, put it back on above the crown board and let them clear it down for winter stores. They will do that. Then the other thing I wanted to show you was pollen. As you can see, there's these little hexagonal bits of bee bread in the... They taste absolutely delicious, and I eat vast amounts of them when I'm extracting. One of these days I'm going to eat one from a plant that doesn't agree with humans, but I haven't done it so far. So there's not many in this one. This will go mouldy in storage over winter. We don't find that to be a problem. They clear it out in the spring, but some beekeepers don't like the thought of them going mouldy over the winter, so they'll actually take away frames, probably not frames with just this small amount in it, but if there was more, they'll cut them out and redo the wax rather than risk it going mouldy over the winter. When I say you cut this set honey out, what we do, because we don't want to waste a whole frame, is I just cut it back to the midrib. So if you scrape it carefully like that with your hive tool, the ever useful hive tool, back to the midrib, then at the end of this you will still have some usable frame. You can give the rest of it back to your bees for them to clear off, and next year they'll have the basis to start building, and it will have a certain amount of still intact drawn frame. See, comes off fairly easily, as you can see.